mode now. The meeting is being live streamed. Got it. Sweet. Yay! Christina, Adrian. Hello, hello. Greetings, greetings all. Thank y'all for being here. Oh, faces. Yeah. So I think we're good on streaming, Laura? Okay, cool. All right, we are good to begin. I will first just start by welcoming and thanking you all for coming to this little webinar on Vanderbilt Divinity School student organizations. So my name is Courtney Ariel Bowden. I'm a third year Master's of Divinity candidate. Working on certificates in religion. I can't even say working on anymore. Completed certificates in religion, gender, and sexuality, and the Carpenter, and RAC, religion, arts, and culture. And I am, a supporter of a lot of the orgs that are represented here. So I'm excited to hear from these voices. These are friends as well. I invite everybody to begin kind of just by bringing themselves into the space, introducing yourself with whatever you'd like to share, what your concentration is, what year you are. I can also share, because sometimes this is a fun one to know where people are from. I'm from Southern California, but been in Nashville for about 6 years. So we can just like popcorn it. Skylar, if you want to start us off.
Hi, y'all. I'm Skylar Shagoda, she, her pronouns. I'm a third year Divinity School Masters of Divinity candidate, and I'm the president of MSA, which is Methodist Student Association. So I am from Central Illinois, around where the University of Illinois is, but went to school in Chicago. So that's a little bit about me, and I will popcorn it to Simone.
Thank you, Skylar. Hello, everyone. I am Simone Temple. My pronouns are they, them, theirs. I am a second year Master's of Theological Studies candidate, pursuing the concentration or I guess like Courtney, I'm about to graduate. So I have a certificate in the Carpenter program, in religion, gender, and sexuality. And I'm here representing the Carpenter program and the James Lawson Institute for the Research and Study of Nonviolent Movements, where I am one of the 2 graduate scholars. I will popcorn it over to Brandon.
Hi, my name is Brandon Desiderio, he, him, and I'm a second and final semester MTS student as well as Simone. I'm originally from about 6 miles west of Philadelphia, and that's also where I went to undergrad, and then worked full-time for the past 7 years in Baltimore before relocating. Yeah, that's about it. My concentration is in economic justice and religion, of course. And I'll pass it to Ristina next.
Awesome. Hi, friends. Ristina Gooden, she, her pronouns. I am a third year Master of Divinity student, hailing from Cleveland, Ohio. The Midwest is strong in this space, and we love to see it. Went to Ohio State, so go Bucks. But yes, I am concentrating. I'm not fancy like the rest of the folks and getting a certificate. I am simply concentrating in religion, gender, and sexuality. And yeah, I think that's it. Oh, I am president of the Student Government Association, as well as president of Black Sims. But I will be repping SGA for today and grateful for that. And I will pass it to Takia.
Hey y'all, Takia Elliott, she, her, hers pronouns. Definitely from the great state of Memphis, Tennessee, area code 901. I am a second year MDiv student, concentrating in chaplaincy and Black religion and culture studies, and my certificate is in African American diaspora studies. Well, once I get it, currently in the process, we're gonna claim it. And yeah, I think that's it. And I will pass it to Adrian. Have you gone? I don't think Adrian has gone.
I will go. I'm Adrian. My pronouns are they, them. I am from Dallas, Texas, and I am a third year MDiv receiving my concentration in pastoral and prophetic congregational leadership. I am here representing Gable, which is the LGBTQ plus organization, as well as Company of New Pastors, which is the Presbyterian Church USA student fellowship group. And I'm also a community co-chair for SGA. So I guess the sort of unofficial, official party planning committee of VDS. And I will throw it to Sitlali.
Hi everyone. Yeah, my name's Siklali. I'm originally from Garden City, Kansas, and I'm a first year Master of Theological Studies candidate, and I'm doing a Global Health Certificate. And I'm here representing the Latinx seminarians. Next year I'll get to be president, so.
Thank y'all so much for being here and for bringing yourselves into the space so warmly. I feel like I can tell that that we have practice with Zoom. The energy can still be felt is such a gift. So I really appreciate it. I want us to start with Adrian and then Takia, because I want to be mindful of y'all's time and appreciate you sharing your evening, kind of splitting your evening between us and other things. But I'll just kind of give this question because it'll be the general one that sort of guides all of our conversation tonight. So if you want to talk about sort of the mission or ethos of the group to which you are a member, and also maybe what kind of drew you to that group, / what you feel like its role is in the wider kind of Vanderbilt Divinity School community. And then not to throw too many things in there, I'll put it in the chat, but if you can also kind of think about like how you were navigating belonging and like answering the question, where do I fit in this place? That's a good thing to kind of probably speak to on this panel as well. So Adrian, do you want to start us off?
Sure. Are you putting the question in the chat? Because I might just skim it really quick before I start rambling.
Yes, start with, I'm going to copy and paste it, but start with like
Okay.
mission,
Sure.
the groups. Yeah, but I'm putting
Cool. I'll start with the slightly simpler one. So Company of New Pastors is a PCUSA fellowship group hosted by Jim Hudnut-Boimler, who's the former dean and one of our history faculty, and his wife Heidi, who's a PCUSA pastor here in the Nashville area. And so once a month they have all of the PCUSA students and some sort of add-ons, folks who are doing their field ed at PCUSA churches and things like that, over to their house for dinner. And it has really been kind of my spiritual home while I've been at VDS, just to have a place to go and, have a meal that I didn't have to cook and receive, mentorship and community that I don't have to lead, because I do work in a congregation. And so when I am in church on Sundays, I'm like frantically, making sure that the bulletin is right, not necessarily receiving the spiritual nourishment of church. So that is very informal. But very special to me and to those of us who participate in that. As I mentioned, I'm also representing Gable, ish, which is the LGBTQIA plus student organization, which honestly is ready for some people who are really, really excited and have energy and time to imagine what that's going to be for the next generation. We have not been up to much since 2020 when COVID, sent us all to our tiny apartments, et cetera. And so, we've gathered and we've sort of witnessed each other and we've been of support to one another, but we haven't had a ton going on in terms of activities. So, the flip side of that is that, my hope is that I can kind of get things set up on the logistics side, get a budget written so that there can be funding so that next year some folks can come in and see what the future of LGBTQ plus student life at VDS is going to be. And I guess to that point, I'll just say the thing about VDS that's really special is if it doesn't exist, you can make it. No one's going to stop you. They might even give you funding if you get the timing exactly right, because that's kind of a complicated system with big VU. But yes, if you build it, well, they might, you can always hope. Um, and then finally, just to the sort of the social community uh, work that I get to do through student government. The main things are that in the fall and the spring, we have a big kind of social party, dance party type of event, as well as other events throughout the year, like Al's Pub, which is kind of a happy hour for students and faculty and staff. And different things like that throughout the year. And so I'm entering all of that, and then just to say that as far as finding community, I think and encountering belonging, it sort of happened through these things and through a million other things, because some of the people who I've been closest to are people that I've gotten to spend time with through these student orgs and activities, and some of them are just people that I happen to sit next to in the lecture hall, and then they were stuck with me forever. I'm looking at you, Courtney. Um, and so I think, student orgs can facilitate a lot of connection, and that's really important. And they can help bring us together based on shared interests or shared concerns, or shared, playlists. But I think the biggest thing for me was just being open to all the places that I was going to encounter my people, and then having these home bases to go back to and check in and receive support and share resources and all that stuff. So I think I've answered the question. Anything I missed?
Thank you so much, Adrienne. Takia, you feel ready to answer?
I'll answer to the best of my ability. I did not say that I was representing Vanderbilt Black seminarians. And really the purpose of Vanderbilt Black seminarians is really to support and offer assistance to particularly the Black students on campus. But there is a partnership with Black students, faculty, and staff within the Divinity School, the Graduate Department of Religion, the Kelly Miller Smith Institute. So a lot of those different things are like all happening at once. And I think largely it's about building community and offering support and fellowship and finding a place of affirmation because Vanderbilt is still a predominantly white institution. So like navigating that as you're also working through your theologies, through your personal life, through it all. I mean, life is hard. So I think that Black Sims is that space. We also do, I will speak retrospectively, but then also think futuristically. Events, whether that's lectures and or responding to issues within the local community and our greater community. I think, and also we had a little kickback at the park, cookout. We call it a cookout. And just thinking about ways to also socialize and be free in our Black bodies and all the ways in which they show up in space. I also am at work. I also work at the Black Cultural Center here on Vanderbilt's campus, which is also another great resource, but I'm here on Black Sims part. And so I think futuristically, there has been a lot of conversation about implementing the committees that we began to build. And I think it's really thinking about more buy-in and setting goals and implementing some of these conversations that we've had. Particularly, I know we have a Hush Harbor committee that will particularly focus around like spiritual support, an accountability committee to ensure that like the needs and wants of Black seminarians are being heard on campus. I believe there is one more. I think it has something to do with community and social outreach to continue to ensure that Black students have a space to be able to engage and have fun, because we all need a break from time to time in grad school, because grad school is a lot too. But well worth it. That's what they say. I believe it. I do. Yeah, and so I think also futuristically thinking about building a Black seminarian network, not just within the Vanderbilt community, but vastly and largely with alumni, but also current Black seminarians, theologians, et cetera, who are within the theological space in academic settings, to just know that like, hey, we're not out here alone. And that there are other people who are building and developing and constructing with us, and also to just see opportunities, particularly job professional opportunities, on what it looks like to have an MDiv or an MTS and where to go next. So these are some of the things that we're futuristically looking into, but most importantly, it is community. As to belonging, you know, it's a journey. If I had to wrap up belonging, particularly navigating it at VDS, but also here in Nashville, because this will be like my 4th year in Nashville, because I also did another program at Vandy before I got to divinity school. It's been a journey, but I came in here at divinity school during COVID, so we were COVID babies. So there was a lot of intentionality. I think there was more of an intentionality on having to like hang out beyond the virtual space and like communicating when we can beyond the virtual space, and opening up to have conversations about life, about coursework, etc. I'm currently looking at Simon because that's my dog. They know I love them. And Simone actually came in our cohort. And so I think between that intentionality, but also just like being in classes together, and having more conversations about the syllabus and bonding over why is this happening and any revelations that we're having. I don't know, every time I get asked this question, I'm just like, it was a journey, but I think there's also a sort of belonging that is happening with self. I can speak for myself. That's also happening. I think being able to engage with the literature and people has been a divine revelation that has also opened up a space to belong to self. And now that's a journey on its own. But I think that divinity school has afforded the space to be able to do that. So I see belonging in many ways, one in which happens in community, but one that also happens with self. And you meet some pretty darn great people. Also, you know, I think all of y'all are great, but I also got to shout out Racina and Courtney. So, you know, but you know, I love all, and I am very grateful to have met great people like Simone, Racina, and Courtney. So, yeah, belonging, it's a journey. It'll happen, even if it's just with self.
That is not small, belonging with self. Ooh, I'm gonna meditate on that. That's good. Thank y'all both for starting us out. Yeah, I feel like we can keep going. Ristina, do you want to go next? And then I want to encourage Adrian and Takia, like whenever y'all need to go, we appreciate your time. But yeah, let's keep it going, y'all.
I love this. Somehow I knew you were going to call me next. And so I said, let me prepare my heart and spirit for that. So yeah, what can I say that hasn't been said already? The mission of SGA is to take care of the students, to be attuned to what is happening in the building, in our community, and make sure that we are having the conversations with administration that need to be had, and raising hell if we have to. We have no issues pushing back, because we are prophets and scholars, and we are expecting that we have to stand up for folks on the margins, and even folks when we are the margins, right? We are the ones on the margins. We have to speak up for ourselves and our loved ones in this community. So SGA does that. We have monthly meetings with the dean. We check in with other student orgs, see what they have going on, and making sure that everything is everything as best as we can is really what SGA is about. And it's about building community. Adrian and our other community co-chair do an excellent job of building community, having parties, doing the things. I think that's the thing that we love the most, is being in community with one another. Divinity School, unlike I think any other graduate school program, is about being in community, because we are deconstructing and reconstructing and reimagining, and sometimes imagining for the first time a new world, a better world. And so I think it is important for us to do that in community. So sometimes that happens on the dance floor while we are listening to Trina's Look Back at It. I don't know. We could really be doing a whole host of things. And we know how to party, and we know how to party well. And I think that is the most beautiful part of all of this. Let me think, what else? Black Sims, Takia hit it all. That she said it all, so I don't need to add anything to that. But as for how does one find belonging at VDS, I came in as a second career student. I was an event planner for 7 years before giving that all up and coming to Divinity School. And so I wasn't sure what it was going to be like to be in this space. A lot of folks are coming straight out of undergrad, which is beautiful. And that was not my experience. And so being a little bit older than some of the folks meant that I had a different approach. So I'm grateful for folks like Courtney and Adrian, who happened to sit in my row, and that we were able to build community that way. And that was beautiful. And for folks that had lived a little bit of life, it was nice to have that. I also came in as the person that was like just gonna organize all the things. So we had study groups, we had study guides. My God, those study guides were just flawless. They were flawless. But that was my thing. Now, was I gonna write anything in the study guide? No. Was I going to organize it so everyone could read it? Yes. And so you got to know your strengths, go with your gifts. And that was my lane, that everyone had that. And that was my thing. So yeah, so that's how I built community. It was really about how can we hang out? How can we be together? How can we ensure that everyone has everything they need? And sometimes you just need a snack. And so sometimes I brought snacks too. But yeah, I think I hit that. I'm gonna pass it to Skylar. You want me to pass it, Courtney? That's okay.
I think, yes, passing it is okay. I was thinking maybe Brandon, though, just because we got a specific labor question.
Oh yes, sorry. I'm not even reading.
No,
Brandon.
no, you're perfect. You're perfect. Brandon, are you good to go?
Sure, yeah. So similar to Takia, I didn't mention the organization I'm representing, which is the Wendland Cook Program in Religion and Justice, which sort of looks at both religion as well as economics and ecology, and what are the intersections, how do they overlap, and how do they inform each other, right? And specifically in the context of labor, which really is broadly conceived, despite, traditional understandings or a lot of misapprehensions. The focus is really on the fact that the majority of us work for a living, even through this program, right? And a lot of our labor, I'm going to use this term, a lot of our labor is feminized, which means that, since a lot of changes through the economy, there's been a downward turn onto wages altogether, starting with the introduction of white women into the economy, but also since then, gradually. And I think that's a significant place of emphasis, especially in a program like this, where the sort of labor that we really are focusing on is labor that is undervalued, that is not often paid a living wage, and if it even has a wage, right? And that does also, though, correspond broader into organized labor, so unions, which represent only 6% of the US economy. And I think this is like a very important thing for me as an individual. My mother is a unionized registered nurse, and as I mentioned, I grew up west of Philadelphia, very, very close to Philly. And my mother has an associate's degree, yet is a registered nurse and a single mother, and yet since I was 13, became a nurse and can command a six-figure salary to support her 3 children. And I think that that's like a very significant thing that is increasingly lost, but also, I hate to say it, not really the future. And so a lot of the investigations within the Wendland Cook program that we spend a lot of time on are really about the future of what does the workforce look like? What can it be that's liberationist, right? And so in particular, a lot of this spring is focused around this new concept called solidarity circles. So we're actually engaged with a lot of people across the country as well as the world. Right now, our only representative outside of the United States is actually in Belgium, but you know, a lot of people that are curious about what we're doing, what we're discussing, led principally by Dr. Jörg Rieger, who is a theologian, a German, a Southern German, a Methodist, a lot of contradictions, a German Methodist from the south of Germany, trained in feminist theology, right? A lot of differences and contradictions. And his wife is actually Rosemary Henkel Rieger, who is a co-executive director along with Benny Overton, who has a long history of labor actions himself, formerly working at the Ford glass plant of Nashville. They both created the Southeast Center for Cooperative Development not even more than 5 years ago. And they actually only got incorporated as a nonprofit, I think, at the start of 2019. And so a lot of our discussions are with them, as well as the president of the Central Labor Council of Middle Tennessee, Vonda McDaniel, who participates in our weekly meetings. So a lot of this is very, I would say, easily intellectualized, and yet, given my own understanding of these things intimately as an individual, and especially seeing the transformation in my own life, being able to attend college, as a result of my mother being able to afford a very, very substantial wage without any man. I think there's a lot of real promise in a lot of what we're putting forward, and it's deeply intersectional and often does not get easily understood as such, but we also are very keen on not focusing too much on the individual or on the human, because a lot of these things have deeply ecological and deeply theological implications. Yeah, so I guess like for me though, in terms of finding community, I want to echo a lot of what's been already said. I think this just happens organically, but I also think it transcends the boundaries of either VDS or just Vanderbilt. I live in East Nashville, in a historically Black neighborhood, and regularly I'm encountering people that I would not otherwise encounter. But these are also encounters that are further informed by my 7 years living in a predominantly Black and a predominantly poor city, Baltimore City. And having worked there, lived alongside a lot of folk of very, very modest means, I think that that really informs my own theological development and formation. And so I think, yeah, like that's the whole point. I know Derek is the one in the chat who was really asking about labor organizing and action. What we're really trying to deconstruct, though, in a lot of what we do in the Wendland Cook program is trying to really decenter the traditional activists. And I think that that might also be a challenge in terms of like raising our visibility on campus or otherwise outside in the community. But really looking at like the fact that ordinary working people who are the majority of the world and also the majority of this country, they really have to be the ones mobilizing this change. And that's where you find the deeply intersectional crossroads of every identity, every relation. And I've discovered that myself, even as a queer person, you know, the majority of people are not very well paid and also have a lot of problems with the workplaces in which they exist. That's all I'll say, but a lot of this I think is like very, very inspiring and very interesting. And a lot of what we're discussing tonight overlaps, which makes this a very exciting place.
Thank you so much, Brandon. I learned so much from everything that you just shared, so I really appreciated that. If we want to go Skylar, Sitlali, and then Simone, I'll put it in the chat too.
Awesome. Yeah, I said earlier, I'm the president of MSA, which is Methodist Student Association. So not only United Methodists, but all the broader Wesleyan theologians. So we have a couple of other denominations in our group that come from this Wesleyan umbrella. So we try to meet like 3 times a semester. Our group is really to help us connect more, talk about theology, specifically for the United Methodist students as a way of support, specifically right now as our denomination is seeing some mayhem and some as we're about to split. So we have conversations about what does this look like for us as people who are going into the denomination as new pastors or new laity, either way. So we have a lot of those conversations, a lot of support there. We are also supported by Bishop Pennell, who is a retired bishop from the United Methodist Church. And he teaches quite a few of our doctrinal classes. So we have class with him and then meet with him, and he's always open to like answering our questions. And if he can't answer our questions, we can always find someone else. Dr. Rieger, like Brandon mentioned earlier, is so great at teaching our Methodist theology class. So having discussions with him, what it looks like to be a Methodist and live Methodist theology as the church is about to split, and what does that look like for us in real life. So having those kind of conversations, one of the perks about being a Methodist student in Nashville is that all of the offices of like communication, discipleship, GBHEM are all headquartered in Nashville. So I know my first year we got to go over to the GBHEM building, which is the General Board of Higher Education, and talk to them about how they support us and how they support undergraduate students who are in school right now and pursuing higher education. How does our denomination do that? So, but also our group is just a way to support each other. It's not easy to go through the United Methodist process at a school that is not specifically a United Methodist school. So we bounce questions off of each other all the time, help each other figure out the pattern of classes we should take because we have a lot of required classes outside of our degree requirements. So making sure we keep each other in check, but also have really interesting discussions a couple times a semester, bringing in different speakers from the United Methodist realm or Methodist realm in general. So yeah, that's kind of about my group a little bit. The United Methodist group used to attend a general conference together. We were actually supposed to go in 2020, and that did not happen. And now it's pushed back to 2024. So hopefully, if you all are here in 2024, you all will get to go as a cohort together. And that could be exciting, but also stressful. So at least you would have a group of people together with you. But yeah, belonging, thinking about belonging, as Adrian and Ristina were talking about earlier, I think it definitely happens organically. It happens to be like who you sit by in your classes, like just so randomly. I remember the first day of class, to get from like where I live to campus, I had to leave my house at 5:30 in the morning, or I would sit in like an hour of traffic in Nashville. So I found myself like sitting at Starbucks studying every morning at like 6 o'clock in the morning. And there were like 5 or 6 other people doing the exact same thing as me. And that became like my study group on campus, just because we were all awake at that ungodly time in the morning. So might as well make it happen and study then, so that we could go home and sleep after class. So I think it just happens organically. So often community happens within your own cohort, studying together, going through all of the discussions that are happening in real time, and having those discussions outside of class. I think organically it happens when you walk into the reading room, and just find people sitting there and jump into conversations with them. I think it takes a little bit of courage those first couple weeks to step out of your bubble and just say hi, like, let's be friends. We're in this together. So it doesn't hurt when Ristina brings snacks or somebody starts playing music. Nothing hurts. So you never know what kind of memories you can make if you don't do it. So be bold and like try to just jump outside of your comfort zone to make that community. But yeah, I will pass it on.
Hi, I think I'm up, right? So as I said before, I'm representing Latinx seminarians, and as far as our mission and ethos, I feel like it's very much so building community, which in my personal experience, I feel like we're always trying to find nuestra gente, and so it just kind of facilitates that to be able to talk to one another. And I was actually thinking, because in my feminist and womanist class, which some of you are in, Briska came and talked, which if you have Instagram, Latina Rebels, she's the founder. And I talked to her afterwards, and she's the founder of Latinx Seminarians. And it was just great talking to her. And it was founded, she mainly did that to build her community and finding one another in a predominantly white institution. You try to find your people. And it's been, as far as like belonging for me, it's been beneficial. Last semester, like I took a class and had 2 other students from Latinx seminarians, and we would just like after class, like on our way out, just talk about it and our own experiences and getting those perspectives as well, because I'm Mexican American, but I would talk to Jaeli, who's Puerto Rican, and Horian, who's Cuban, and we would just talk about the differences within our own cultures. And as far as belonging outside of Latinx, I feel like it is organic, as Skylar has mentioned, and I feel like since I started orientation, because it's like my first year, our cohort has been like very communicating about stuff and events and like get-togethers, and that has been really helpful. And I just want to talk about some of the events we do. We try to do 2 events. This is our first year back, I guess, since COVID. And during Latinx History Month, we throw an event, and we also did a Wednesday worship where Horian did his sermon. I presented a poetry piece, and then Francisco and Jaeli like played the guitar and sang, and it was really nice experience. And I think it's just used to like uplift and create dialogue. And then we do an event where we had Afro-Latin jazz music and we had food and everyone was dancing and it was fun. So that's what we like to do. We like to uplift the diversity within our identities, because Latinx, we have Indigenous, we have Afro Latinx, you know, and we want to make sure those people are heard. And we, at our event, we also had organizations. The poblano dip was good, I agree. I was getting multiple plates. Sorry, backtrack. We have organizations from the community come out, and so we did have workers' dignity or dignidad obrera, and they do workers' wages. So they're making sure that workers, they do specifically construction site and others, but they make sure those people get the right wages. They are not mistreated. And they have a radio station now, I believe, and they also do interpretation, translation. They do a lot of great services for Latinx community here in Nashville. So we're able to be a part of that. And then the other one is Justice for Our Neighbors, which provides affordable legal services for Latinx immigrants, which is also amazing and great. And so, yeah, we include our community in our events. And as you heard, we have good food and good dances. So it's great all around.
This is my cue. Is this my cue? Okay. First of all, thank you to all of you who have spoken before. You are all very articulate. I am so proud to be here at VDS at the same time as all of you. I am going to try to talk about two of these and be mindful of time. I love what I do, and so I could talk about these things for hours. But first, about the Carpenter program. The Carpenter program is a course of study. It's individually designed, so you, when coming into VDS, can talk with your advisor about how you want to build up your coursework for the rest of your time here at VDS. It specifically focuses on the variety of issues underneath the interdisciplinary facet that is religion, gender, and sexuality. And so that can be encompassing of a lot of different factors. And so because it's individually designed, you can really focus on a specific area within religion, gender, and sexuality that you want to. I'm trying to remember specifically, someone correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it is my understanding that there's a concentration in religion, gender, and sexuality, which I'm also pursuing. And there's the certificate, the Carpenter certificate in religion, gender, and sexuality. And they are different things. The coursework overlaps entirely, so you can fulfill the requirements for your concentration by getting the Carpenter certificate. It's just the certificate shows up on like your transcript, which isn't necessarily a terrible thing because you can always sort of reveal that information later, like, oh, I do have a concentration in this. But I know that that was a lot of the appeal for me, just because of the way that it would sort of show up on documents. But again, the coursework is similar. I think there may be a little more requirements for the Carpenter program in terms of like specific courses that you have to take. One in theology or ethics, one in textual interpretation, and then one in practical application. Yes, thank you, Courtney. It shows up essentially like a minor. But what I love about the Carpenter program is that, like I said, it's individually crafted. And so I have a master's in women's and gender studies, and I came into VDS really wanting to pursue the intersection of gender and religion as it related to ecofeminism. Is that where I ended up? No, but the beauty of this program is that it is expansive and you can create your journey and find your journey as you go. And so even though I am studying something a little bit different, the thing about the way that, I mean, VDS in general is very interdisciplinary, but the Carpenter certificate program specifically, even though I'm maybe ecofeminism isn't the title of all of my papers, it's definitely still related to the work that I do now. Um, what else can I say about that? What else can I say? I may come back to that. If anyone has any more questions about the Carpenter program, please let me know. The James Lawson Institute for the Research and Study of Nonviolent Movements, or the JLI, as we like to call it, has three main goals. The first is advancing research of nonviolent movements and nonviolent action. It's primarily focusing on the work of the Reverend James Lawson, who donated all of his papers, all of his research to Vanderbilt. And so because Vanderbilt houses his research, that's where we sort of focus a lot of our conversation and moving forward with Lawson's specific, what is the word I'm looking for? Approach to nonviolence. So our first goal is to advance the research of nonviolence. Their second is to promote conversations around this. A lot of the events and programming that we do is community-based, not only within Vanderbilt, but also, not only within Vanderbilt Divinity School, but it's also a partner program with the College of Arts and Sciences. And so we partner with them, we partner with the larger Vanderbilt community, and we also partner with Nashville and Tennessee at large. A lot of the work that we do seeks to engage communities across different boundaries. And lastly, which I feel is most of my work as one of the graduate scholars for the Institute, is to train the next generation in nonviolent action, the language of nonviolent action. What does it look like in practical application, specifically in university settings? And so something that we have started this semester and plan to implement throughout, I don't know, until forever, is the James Lawson Institute's college cohort, which is open to university students in the Nashville area. And so it's housed in the Divinity School, but it is open to anyone that is interested in learning the language of nonviolence, thinking about nonviolent action, and most importantly, thinking about what does this look like practically and in a university setting. It is a college cohort, and so a little bit of it is doing like the research. We are all students, but it is by students for students. And as someone who crafts it, I understand that we don't want to leave class and then come back to another class. And so it's really meant to be a space where college students can come together and think through these things in a way that doesn't feel so rigorous, but is still as productive and is entirely done in community. It's intended for us to bounce ideas off of each other about what nonviolence looks like in practice. And yes, our department, our director is the incredible Dr. Phyllis Isabella Shepherd. I have to shout her out always because she does incredible work. But yes, that is the James Lawson Institute. Oh, belonging, that's where we're going next. I'll sort of talk about them both individually because I think I belong in them in a little bit in different ways, sort of. Like I said, I came into VDS with the intention to pursue gender studies. And because of the way that you have to craft the Carpenter program to fit your needs, I will say that the belonging that I feel was intentionally done by me. A lot of it was trying to figure out exactly what it is I wanted to study, who I wanted to be in conversation with, and like who it was I'm doing my scholarship for. Of course, there's a lot of support for this. There's faculty support, there's support from my peers, the members of my cohort. But a lot of it has to sort of deal with like the internal wonderings of where do I feel like called to go. Your first year in VDS, they will ask you about your vocational aspirations so much that you kind of can't think about anything else. And that was really helpful for me in terms of thinking about what exactly or how I wanted to make the Carpenter program work for me. The thing about belonging, though, also is that people who have the concentration in religion, gender, and sexuality, or are pursuing the Carpenter program, take a lot of the same courses. And so you will see a lot of the same people all of the time. If you are MTS like me, you start your elective coursework within your first semester. And so from the first semester to my final semester, I've had classes with the same people. And that's really fun to see the journey that we're sort of having together, and to have that camaraderie is really awesome. In terms of the James Lawson Institute, I kind of was in that on accident. I don't know who heard about me, but somehow I ended up in the James Lawson in the office on the second floor of the Divinity School. And now this is the work that I am really passionate about. And I will say, I don't think I thought a lot about how nonviolence works in the specific line of work that I do. But now having worked at the James Lawson Institute for, don't ask me the months, since September, it's really hard to think about what activism looks like, what practical application of a lot of the theories that we're dealing with in VDS looks like without nonviolence. And so it's been a really great way to connect with not only members of my community, but also Nashville at large. I moved from California to Nashville and like didn't really know anybody. And so being able to connect with a lot of different people of a lot of different organizations has been super, super awesome. And also just in general, finding belonging at VDS. Because I moved from afar, I really was like, I don't know how I'm going to make friends. I don't know how I'm going to fit in. And God bless the group chat because I was thrown in like three immediately. I was thrown in a Black group chat, I was thrown in a queer group chat, and I was thrown in a Black non-man group chat. And those were incredible to be in. And a lot of those people, Takia was in a lot of those group chats. And so being able to have community in that way, especially after coming out of the pandemic and my first year being entirely virtual, I really appreciated the way that community building was very intentional. And I think that's something that goes for all of VDS students, building community, especially when doing such like a spiritually, how do I put it, rigorous degree. I feel like intentional community is something that we really, there was a queer group chat. It didn't have everybody in it. I will say that. It did not have, it had like, there were like three of us. But I will say intentional community is something that I think we all sort of strive for, and really want to be each other's support system, because it's hard. Getting your master's is hard. Life is hard. Getting your master's and doing life when all the other things in the world are happening is very hard. And so it's not like there are people who like don't want to be friends with you. Everyone is willing and open and would love to have community. And so belonging is easy to do, but you also must be intentional about how you do it to make sure that it's the right fit for you. So that is where I will stop.
Thank you so much, Simone. Thank you to all of our panelists, y'all. Ooh, I just am snapping you up. I would love if we can hang for a couple more minutes and see if anybody has any questions. This has been so amazing. I've learned, I mean, this is my third year at VDS and I'm familiar with all of these groups and I've been learning as each person has been sharing. So no pressure if there's no questions. I put it in the chat kind of just to save really time, but I am a member of Poesis, the art collective. You can tell by the way our mission statement is written that we are artists and don't have a ton of structure, but we are intentional in our gathering. We use the term making so that people can see themselves as being a part of Poesis. I'm a songwriter. I'm the only songwriter in the group. We have poets, we have visual artists, mixed media. I feel like Dana Jo just does everything artistic. So we have people kind of just across the spectrum. And if you do have questions that you want to ask offline about kind of how to turn art in for assignments and get credit for artistic things in the academic realm, I would be happy to talk to you about that, because it is a possibility and it is an art form in and of itself. But yeah, it doesn't seem like we have any questions. So I think that might be the end of this panel. Let me make sure, Laura, do you have any announcements or anything? Sweet, so we're good to go. It has been a pleasure being with you all tonight. Nourish yourselves, hydrate yourselves, have a wonderful evening. We'll see you at the next one. Put down the day, pick up the piece. Have a beautiful night.